Africa is not a country. It is not one big homogenous market. It is filled with thriving and some of the world's fastest growing economies. To find out more, log on to www.africabusinessradio.com. Africa Business Radio. Towards a profitable Africa.
Thank you for still staying tuned with us. You're still with me, Ngobani Mzizi, right here on Africa Business Radio, the show Business Today in Africa. And at this time, by now, you know that we have our personal finance feature. And as always, Adam Halper is here to join me. Last week, we had a very interesting conversation with him. And this week is definitely going to be no different, except that this week we are going once again to visit the issues around business insurance. And once again, we revisit a topic that we visited, I think, about 4 or 5 months ago around key man insurance policy around an entrepreneur, particularly those who are conducting sole proprietary businesses and in partnership. So, Adam, thank you so much, my brother, for joining us this evening, and welcome to the show.
It's a great pleasure, my man. Thank you for having me.
Wonderful. Adam, in preparing for this show this evening, and particularly this segment, we felt that it's quite necessary for us to revisit this topic because, I guess in your experience, you are the one who issues out insurances and so forth. So you are the one who is more in the cold face of seeing this happening, where business people sometimes take it for granted the need to have an insurance policy.
Yes, so people think if they have their personal policies sorted that they are in fact protected, but there are elements of business, especially in our emerging market, South Africa, with a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of partnerships, lots of new businesses, SMEs, that sort of stuff. These are most of the time partnerships where someone or both or all three or many more have put money into the project or into the business, and someone is at risk. There's no question. So any business, you're going to have to put an initial outlay of sorts.
Yes.
Even if it's small, it's still something you have to invest and to get it started. So partnership insurance, I think it's important just to define what it is.
Okay.
It's making sure that in the event of your death, disability, or this sort of life-changing event like that, that your surviving partner being business partner, has got enough capital to buy your shares or to buy you out of the business. Often not the case. People don't have the capital, and that's why this sort of insurance is called buy and sell.
Okay.
So it's a buy and sell agreement, which is a legal agreement that states what has to happen with the funds from the buy and sell policies. And that agreement is there to give the peace of mind to not only the partners, but also the partners' families, to know that even in the risky stage of their growth, of their business, that there is protection for them should something happen.
So, Adam, let's assume yourself and I were in a partnership of some kind. And we always make examples about yourself and me. Let's say we're in a business together, and I happen to, God forbid, I happen to pass away. The cover that is upon my life, you as a financial advisor now, going back to who you really are, how do you determine the value of the cover that should be upon my life as the insured member or partner of this partnership between yourself and I?
Great question. So the cover amount will be based on what your shares are worth.
Okay.
So for example, if you put in, let's say the business that we started is worth R1 million, for argument's sake.
Right.
And for the purposes of this example, I put in, say 400,000, you put in 600,000. Okay. Or let's make it a bit cleaner so that you understand.
Okay.
You have 50-50.
Okay.
You put in 500,000, I put in 500,000. I now know that if something happens to you, I don't have an additional 500,000 to buy out your family or to buy out your shares from your estate. Essentially, that's what it is. The value of cover would be entirely dependent on the value of the business.
Right.
And that would, the correct individual, the financials of the business, the audited financials would would be able to confirm that for us. It's often you never have a real value to a business. It's always a thumbsuck. Well, obviously, the more established the business is, the more
determinable is the value.
Correct. Yes. So in the early stages, although it's important, you don't know yet because it's not really worth much. But we normally look at turnover and a few other things. There's also a business needs analysis process that we follow as financial advisors to ascertain exactly where the shortfalls lie from a cover perspective.
All right. So I mean, you started off at the beginning where you say if our initial outlay is half a million each, at least at the initial stages, myself and you will take out cover for at least to cover that amount of money should any of us, God forbid, pass away. And then as the business grows, then it is based on the valuation of the entity based on its financial statements as it goes along. Let's say, for example, we are overinsured and the premiums that we are paying are for 500,000, but the time when I pass away, the valuation of the business is far less than what we were covered for. In the industry, what is the practice? What would be paid out? Would the covered amount be paid out, or will the actual valuation of the business be paid out?
So it's again a fantastic question, and I think it's important to note that insurance, whether it be business related or personal, is always something that has to remain relevant. I know I've said that many times on this show. And I think it's important to ensure under the same light that you need to ensure that the stuff remains relevant. However, in a case like you've just mentioned where the payout is more, insurance at the end of the day, if it was reversed, let's say it was the other way around, where the business is
more than what is insured,
more than what is being paid out, either way, what is being paid out is being paid out. And if it's more than what it's worth, well, somebody scored. If it's at the end of the day, an insurance policy is a contract.
Okay.
The same way that even in the event of a will, let's jump to a personal situation where in a will you say that all your assets must be left to your wife, and in your policy you mentioned that it needs to be left to your girlfriend.
Okay.
So the policy will always override the will. Okay.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
The policy will always override the will. In the same token, a business policy, if it's got a sum insured that you've been paying premiums for, which was underwritten at inception, it has to be paid out at claim stage. End of story.
All right, and I think the second last question that I'm going to ask you, I mean, I'm in business, and my friend as well is in business, and we are both startups, and we both want to insure, to get insurance. Do you guys check what kind of business that these people are in, or it's just a matter of the amount of money that you want to insure, and then you insure, I mean, the premium becomes the same? I mean, I know for personal insurance it is based on certain factors, age and risk and so forth, but in a business instance, what are the factors that come into play when establishing what the premium should be?
We take a lot of factors into account. Obviously, for the smaller sums of cover, so anything under, I think in this economy, anything under 5 million wouldn't be as scrutinized.
Okay.
Anything above, so they would easily approve that sort of cover because it's a lower risk.
In the bigger scheme of things, yeah.
In the greater scheme of things. Not that 5 million is anything to sneeze at.
Sure.
But it's a very, very, obviously the need is enormous.
Yeah.
But from an underwriting perspective, meaning from a risk analysis perspective, they will always look at businesses in excess of 5 million and up. I mean, you can go up to 20, 30, 40, up to 100. You never know. But the bottom line will always be based on the sum of cover being applied for. If it's above, say, 10 million per partner, which is very often the case, then it would be something along the lines. Then they certainly would look at industry, financials. There would be a lot more. They would scrutinize it a lot more. The insurer would scrutinize it a hell of a lot more. And in the same light, when you're buying a very expensive vehicle,
for sure,
the bank will be a lot more careful and a lot stricter than financing a very cheaper vehicle. So I hope I'm making sense.
You make a great deal of sense, Adam, because I can bring that down to my own personal space. Because from a personal insurance perspective, I guess those are the things that I have been subjected to, because my assets are not as big as I guess other people are, whom I've heard have been subjected to a lot of scrutiny more than I have been, much to my shock. But now you've just elaborated why then that happens. It's because of the value of the insurance.
Yes, that's right.
All right. And my last question then, Adam, to you is that a business person is listening to this show and says, look, I think I need this cover. And we're having this conversation for the second time deliberately, because this is something which really comes out quite strongly, where we see that people find themselves struggling at the unlikely event that they passed away. So how can you help them?
I would very much love to hear from them, and I would love to assist with analyzing their needs and assisting with solutions. So I can be found on my South African cell number 082-786-9968. My email is adamh@discovery.co.za. I'm on Twitter, helper_Adam. Adam on Facebook and LinkedIn. You'll find me, and I look forward to hearing from you.
You are a very great helper. Thank you so much, my brother.
Yes, sir. I'll try.
Have a good evening, my man.
You too. Thanks for having me.
Cheers. Okay. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye.
We are taking ownership of our narrative, leading the conversation, enlightening our listeners. Africa Business Radio. Towards a profitable Africa.